Well, I don't know. I guess I'll just wait for you guys to show up. I don't know. I majorly fucked up with the tech today. And like I'm trying to like link this to the last live stream, but I can't access the live chat anymore. So Burb, how are you? Oh. All right, so I don't know. Also, I have no idea what the audio is like. I can't even type in the live chat. Please tell me what the audio is like. To me, it sounds really, really echoey, and I know this is like a shitty mic. I plan to use like a computer and a mic today, and I somehow cannot even get the password to open the computer. So here we are. Okay, thank you. I'm glad the audio is fine. Like if the audio wasn't fine, okay. If the audio wasn't fine, I maybe would just like redo the reading, like at a later date. Yeah, like I'm reading on my phone. It's so tiny. It's a PDF, so I ended up like flipping the phone and like zooming in and like moving. It was like wow, a lot of things going on. Okay, so I have to say like my number one thought about the first chapter is that it's like an academic analysis. Um, okay, well I can't do anything. I'm just on my iPad. There's no like I can't even can I mute myself? I can't even mute myself. It's nothing to be done. I can't even type in the live chat. Like it's very not great. Um, yeah. So yeah, my number one thought about this. Okay, first of all, I like Mahler. I didn't want to know that he was I mean, every male composer is a piece of shit, but I didn't really want to know that he was a piece of shit. Um, yeah, I don't like Tolstoy, so that was okay with me. Uh, yeah, my number one thought about this is kind of like the Jews and homosexuals chapter of Right in Women. How like 90% of the chapter is like an analysis of biblical literature, like a very academic analysis of it. Um, and I was kind of the whole time during that, my number one thought was, I don't care about the Bible, and this is very boring. Like I understand why she's doing what she's doing, but I guess it's like because I grew up religious, I just like can't give a shit. And with this, I was like, I don't care about Tolstoy, and you just spent like 20 pages in not analyzing Tolstoy. Um, no, I mean like it has value, but that was my main thought about it. Um, I tried to read cover to cover when I was a kid, when I was 7. I think I read half of it. Did I make it to Esther? I don't remember the layout of the Bible. And I've been told by everyone that Revelations is like the best book. That I should have like got to the end so I could read that. But whatever. Okay. Yeah. So Tolstoy. So in the grand scheme of the book, I understand why she started the book this way, right? Like it makes sense. She's trying to be like, look from the man's perspective. This is how he views sex. And then I bet you the rest of the book is going to be like from the woman's perspective. So she's trying to like set up like the context back and forth. You read the whole Bible 20 times? Holy crap, Allie. Um, yeah, so disgusting to me though too. Like, and then who was it that wrote that book called like, yeah, Tolstoy and Gandhi, Men of Peace. Um, Also, I didn't realize Kreutzer was a contemporary of. Well, I realized Kreutzer was a contemporary of Mahler. I didn't realize Kreutzer was a contemporary of Tolstoy. I thought Tolstoy was older than that. I like Kreutzer a lot. He's a very famous violinist, a soloist. Um, yeah, okay, let's. So, yeah, both Tolstoy and Gandhi. I mean, I don't know much about Tolstoy, to be honest with you. But I know Gandhi has like this reputation of being like some kind of peacemaker and whatever. Meanwhile, he was like raping girls. Like, good job, bro. And same thing with him. Yeah, and a racist. Oh yeah, he was pro-Nazi, wasn't he? Um, and like Tolstoy. you know, he's writing, like, okay, for those of you who weren't here for the whole reading. So he, like tons of artists, like I think of Mozart and Bach, got their wives to do like all of like the admin type stuff for them. So like transcriptions, proofreadings, dealing with their publishers, all of that. It was like their wife's job on top of being a full-time fucking mother and housekeeper and all that. Um, so the first work, no, it's not that weird, because there's like a certain type of I don't remember the technical terminology for all this stuff. There's a certain type of Indian that are like ethnically like Aryan or something, even though they're not like white, but they view themselves as being like white. I've actually run into a couple of those people in Canada who are like, they're like super super racist, but they're like, they think that they like fit into like the Aryan design, even though they're like brown. It's very strange. I don't know enough about it to really have an opinion, but it's so fucking weird. Anyway, like this one guy was like shitting on me because I was only half German and he was like Italian, and I was like, okay, dude. Yeah, the Third Reich allowed Indians as Aryan. Yeah, but not all Indians. It's like a certain type or something. I don't know. Okay, anyway, so I think Lisa's a mod. If there's any other mods here, they can handle it. I can't do anything on the iPad, so. Right, so what I was trying to say before I got like off track. So Tolstoy, the first work that he had his wife transcribe was the Kreutzer Sonata. The Kreutzer Sonata is the story in which the guy murders his wife, and it's like this kind of analysis of like how sex it like leads to like is the act of dehumanizing women, and like it was like inevitable that he would kill his wife because he was having sex with her. Like that's basically how I understood the chapter, like in a short form. But that's the first work he had his wife transcribe. Like, dude, the level of like what the fuck, like how can you wrote a whole book about how dehumanizing it is and how horrible it is, and then what did you do? And it's like basically autobiographical. Like it's talk about his wife having endless children and constantly like fucking her while she's like pregnant, and like how she like they have like it's basically autobiographical, the Kreutzer Sonata. And then he had his wife transcribe it. Like that is so cruel. Like to be like, oh yeah, I like fucking you all the time, and in this book the character, who is me, ends up murdering his wife because he's fucking her all the time, and I'm fucking you all the time, so probably gonna murder you too. Like, can you imagine being the wife? Holy fuck, man. Like, it's so inhumane. And for him to be like, look, like I'm like an intelligent, sophisticated man who has like understood the nature of sexuality or some crap, and then to turn around and be like, but wife, you're still my servant. Like, you just do what the fuck I tell you to do. Like, holy fuck, bro. Like, the cognitive dissonance is like insane to me. Okay. Hey, burp. You guys should see this pair. It's very cute. I didn't know anything about Tolstoy. Like, I know who he is, but I never actually. I tried to read Anna Karenina, and I tried to read War and Peace, and I was like, no. Like, this is ridiculous. Fitzner. What did he even compose? Is he one of those guys who are like a ton of violence and sonatas nobody cares about? I don't know. I think this chapter was pretty good at articulating. Like I've seen men on Reddit talk about this, and like 4chan, other places where you'll find like really really porn obsessed men and really really like incel men's rights activist type mindsets. I've seen men talk about this thing of like, even on TikTok, there's been trends on TikTok where guys will make comments like, oh yeah, like, you know, as soon as you come, like, you want to punch her in the face, or like, lol, girls think that we choke them because it turns them on, but actually we just want to kill them, like that kind of stuff. Like, men make these jokes, like, they understand exactly what she's talking about here, that like, to men it's like either you are like a cold object which has no humanity, or you exist for the fucking and there's like no in between. Like, I've seen men saying this like in the last couple days, like on the internet. Men, like, they know this, they know, they're like, lol, like, they think it's funny. So depressing. um yeah, I don't know, the more I like think about sexuality, the more it's like kind of shocking to me that straight women have sex with men. I'm like, why would you do that? It seems like not a great idea. Um, not trying to like shame someone. It's just like I don't understand it like at all. Um, hey Cyber, a long time. All right. Oh, Lisa says I used to be a believer. Then I studied historical Christianity in the New Testament, and then you were no longer a believer. Oh, Lavender Rose says Gandhi learned a lot of racism from his time in South Africa. That makes sense. Okay. Useless Strawberry says light bulb moment for me. Is this the reason men hate slash jealous of sex toys so much, because they view people as bodies and bodies as objects and toys? Yeah. Like, yeah. Also, I used to know this woman who, do I still have her contact information? I should try to talk to her. I used to know this woman who was doing her PhD studying men's I don't remember exactly what her degree was in. It was something very technical and complicated. But a lot of what she was studying was the way that men perceived and treated like sex robots. And she told me that the first time in history that there was like a sex convention where they like unveiled a sex robot, they let the men kind of do whatever they wanted to it, and the men like literally destroyed it. Like, they literally dismembered and like took it, like destroyed it. And she was like, to me, this is kind of like the ultimate, like, this is what men would do to women if they could. But because this is like a literal inanimate object, they could do that, so they did it. There was no limiting factor of, you know, if I kill a woman, there'll be a punishment. This is a robot, so I can do what I actually want to do. Um, yeah, like, very fucking creepy shit. Yeah, let me look a little bit through the chapter. So she talks about how once the woman, and this is something that to me is a bit, I feel like she's almost being too generous. Because, like, maybe in this story, this is how it's expressed. But, like, I look at, in the last couple of days, I've heard, I feel this, I'm not 100% sure if this is what's happened, but this is what I feel like is what happened. This woman in Egypt, whose name I forgot, at the university in Cairo, I think, a dude propositioned her for marriage, and she said no, and he murdered her. And that got a lot of high profile media attention. And since then, there's been like 5 more women in Egypt who've been murdered. 4 of them for turning down a marriage, and 1 of them for wanting a divorce. Um, and the response from all of these like Muslim men, I mean, like, that I've seen on the internet, the response has been, oh, good, she deserved it. So in this chapter, Dworkin is trying to analyze what Tolstoy is saying. And what she thinks Tolstoy is saying, and what I think like is pretty solid based on like the quotes she gives and everything, this is what he is saying, is that once the object is dead, the woman is dead. It's no longer an object. Now you can see the humanity of it because you don't want to fuck it. Which also I was like, to presume that most men don't want to fuck a dead woman is like a bit much. Like men are disgusting. But like, so she was like, once the object is truly dead, he doesn't want to fuck it. Therefore, he can see it as a human, but now only once it's dead. She's like, now we can see like this is a person with feelings and like ambitions and whatever, and now this is dead. Now you can truly see what you've done. Then I look at the situation in Egypt right now with all these women being killed in the streets for just saying I don't want to marry you. And the number one feeling of all of the men is she fucking deserved it. Like that bitch should have known she can't say no, that kind of thing. Like that's the feeling. It's not that now that she's dead, oh, like I can see that this like, oh, that's really sad. She was a person regardless of like whatever situation was going on, she was a person. No, that is not how it's gone. I wonder, excuse me, I'm trying to talk. Hello? Okay. Yeah. Nayara Ashraf. Thank you, Yanam. Yeah, I heard about that too. Univerme is saying in Spain there has been a case of girls born in Catalonia who've been killed in Pakistan, I think as a crime of honor by the male members of their family. I know what you're talking about. That was a couple weeks ago. Yeah, like they were born in Spain. They married to these Pakistani men. I think what happened was that the men treated them like shit and they were trying to like go back to Spain. Or they had gone back to Spain and then the men convinced them to come back to Pakistan. And when they were in Pakistan, they were like, we want a divorce. Like these two sisters, I think, if I recall correctly. And then when the family heard, like, oh, you want a divorce, they were like, well, we'll just kill you then. Because I guess from the male perspective, it's like, well, whether you leave me or you're dead, it's the same to me. And at least if I kill you, I'll prove that I'm like a man and I have control over you. Like, that's how I see it. But anyway, so this thing of like Tolstoy being like, oh, once she's dead, I can recognize her humanity. And these men in Egypt all like being elated that these men have killed these women in the streets for saying no to them, I think kind of shows that pornography has made men has ramped it all up like way worse and has made men like way more sexually and morally entitled. Yeah. No, Univermea, you're thinking about it too logically. Univermea is asking, what's the benefit of killing a woman? It's so irrational. What's the benefit of dismembering a robot / killing a woman? Yeah, I don't think it's about benefit. I think it's just about like an egotistical exercise of power. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misconstrued the situation. Univermea says they were in Spain, where they married their cousins in Pakistan. Were married to their cousins in Pakistan. They were lied to by the males of their families who had kidnapped their mother in Pakistan. They went to file a divorce and were killed. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think men do it like for a practical reason. I don't think they think like, oh, the outcome is going to be great for me. I think that they're just like, yeah, Anung says the right to annihilate the inferior. I think it's like an extremely egotistical, arrogant, entitled passion rather than anything pragmatic. Like in the last couple of Dworkin books I've read, I've really like come to see like women are extremely pragmatic. Like they will say yes to sexual things they don't want because they know that saying no will mean they will get beaten, right? Like they will say yes to a marriage they don't want because they know the alternative is like being a prostitute and not being able to feed their kids. Like they're extremely, extremely pragmatic. Men are the opposite. They just do whatever the fuck they want all the time and they expect women to like pick up the pieces in society to pat them on the back for it. Like men know they can get away with being extremely like passionate and like illogical, and women know that they need to be like extremely pragmatic and rational as much as possible to like survive. And so like passion almost never enters into their decision making, whereas for men it's like there's very little thought. It's almost all just like irrational bullshit. I mean, that's where I'm at right now with reading this stuff recently. So I think trying to be like, but why? Like, what was the rationale? I think that's, oh, hey, Aqua. Well, it's about Tolstoy. It's kind of depressing. I don't really like him. Um, I do think it's pretty interesting, though, like, the concept of being critical of intercourse, to me. Yeah, Anung, okay, well, I do think that there is, like, a macro, Anung says, all to maintain the illusion of power. I do think there is, like, Vermeer talking about, like, what is, like, the benefit of killing a woman to a man. Like, there is, like, a kind of macro power benefit. So not to the individual man, right? Well, no, okay, I used to know this woman who was Albanian, and in the 90s, she had a neighbor who was like a woman in her 20s who was dating someone. And she came home one day and told her brother, who I think was a year younger than her, or something like that, they were very close in age, told her brother, oh, I'm dating someone. And the brother murdered her, like in the fucking apartment. Like she was next door, she could hear the woman getting murdered. And the police came and they were like, oh no, she committed suicide. And then nothing happened to the guy. So when you think about that situation, I'm like, what was the the larger scale impact of this? So the guy didn't face consequences, right? The consequence for him on like a very like cold, hard facts perspective is that he no longer has a woman in the house to do all of this labor for him, right? So I think in the long term, from his very, inhuman perspective, he probably thought it was a bad deal to kill her. But the larger scale impact is that the women around them in the neighborhood all knew, like, oh fuck, if I piss off my husband or my brother or my dad, the man in my house can just kill me and they'll be fine. Like, the larger scale impact was the exercise of extreme authority, right? So, like this story of Tolstoy, the Kreutzer Sonata, where he kills his wife, it's like it wasn't a benefit to him because like who's gonna do his laundry and raise his children, and he doesn't have anyone to fuck now, or at least not as easily, right? But the benefit to men as a class is that women know their place. They know this is like the ultimate extreme of if you piss a man off, this is what he's gonna do to you, and it will probably be fine. He'll probably get away with it. Like it says in the thing that he was acquitted of the charges. Yes, Aqua, very succinct. The medium is the message, it's not a bug, it's a feature. Very accurate. That's true, Anung. Yes. Anung says it's authority, not power. They know and fear that their authority could be eroded. Yeah. Anung says the men have to be conditioned to see the women as not even human first. Then they can release all their hatred onto the object. It's a lot like how soldiers are conditioned in war. Mm-hmm. Like or even just like if you think about like Nazi propaganda, it's like they had to first dehumanize Jewish people so that then Germans would be like, oh, it's okay if you're murdering them because they're not even people that you're murdering, right? Like you have to dehumanize before like the violence seems unnotable, right? Burb. Yeah. It's crazy to me too how like the thesis of Tolstoy's story is basically that like we shouldn't have sex because one, it leads to the dehumanization of women. But the problem isn't the actual dehumanization of the woman, it's that when you dehumanize a woman, she wants revenge. That's the problem. Like it's not actually about women being hurt, that's the problem. It's about when women are hurt, they don't like men, or they want like revenge against men. That's the problem. And I'm just like, dude, you're talking about a man killing his wife, and the problem is that women are unhappy. It's not that the woman was murdered. I was like, the fuck? Should we do chapter 2 today? What time is it? It's only 10:30. Okay, you know what? Let's read the the last paragraph of the chapter. Of course, the last paragraph is like a whole page long. Okay. No, I know a bird killed me. It's because I'm doing a different stream. I couldn't open the actual stream because I'm not on my computer. I'm on an iPad. I think by tomorrow I should be okay. By tomorrow I should be like on a real computer with a real microphone and everything should be good. All right. Okay. I'm going to read the last paragraph, which I think will take me like 3 minutes maybe. Okay. Tolstoy himself wanted to give up wealth and power, his estates, his monies, from his books, his eating meat, his position in society. He wanted to be simple, non-violent, and poor. In this renunciation of power, he included sexual intercourse in principle, though not in practice. The Kreutzer Sonata, he knew, as artists often do, more than he was willing to act on in real life, especially about how women, one woman in particular, were part of the wealth he owned, and especially about how intercourse was implicitly violent, predicated as it was on exploitation and objectification. He wanted to beat spears into pruning hooks, this phallic imagery being as close as the 19th century author could come to talking about explicit genital violence, the penis itself as a weapon in intercourse with a social inferior. In art, he articulates with almost prophetic brilliance the elements that combine to make and keep women inferior, all of them originating, in his view, in sexual intercourse, because sexual intercourse requires objectification and therefore is exploitation. In life, he blamed and hated Sophie, feeling antagonism and repulsion, because he wanted to fuck her, and he did fuck her. Satiation did not lead to calm or harmony. It simply produced a hostile indifference, a stylistic modification of actively expressed revulsion. More than any other form of privilege, intercourse kept Tolstoy rooted in earthy, arrogant obsession, not poor and simple at all, having the right to use another person for pleasure, and exercising that right at will. Certainly not non-violent. He experienced the obsession as an internal violence, violating him, not her. The intensity of wanting was violent, stubborn, cruel, as he called it. The intensity of the act was violent, including in later years sex that by modern standards was clearly forced. The distaste after satiation was hostile, a passive violence of antipathy and indifference. He hated intercourse because of what it did to him, how he felt wanting it, doing it, being done with it. He hated Sophie because he fucked Sophie. For Sophie, being used, being hated, being fucked, meant loving him as a wife was supposed to. To her diary only, she confided that, quote, the main thing is not to love, end quote, because it is, quote, so painful and humiliating, end quote, and, quote, all my pride is trampled in the mud, end quote. No, I know, yeah, that's what he's saying. He's like, women want revenge against men because men do horrible things to women. So men should stop doing horrible things to women so that they don't have to suffer the wrath of women. And to me, it's like, men should stop doing horrible things to women because women don't fucking deserve it, not because of the wrath of women. It's so stupid. Um, Subservience, submission, and subjugation have always been sold to women as love. Yeah, that's why I fucking hate all religion. Every religion preaches that bullshit. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm going to start a new stream. I can't link you before. It's not the one that's scheduled. I'm going to just start a stream right now. So just go on my YouTube page and wait for it to pop up. And I'm gonna read the next chapter. Okay, see you there in a minute. Bye.